So we have a number of themes that are going to be echoed in the material for today. But the universal question throughout the entire Course of Miracles is, how do you respond to the question, what are you? For of that very question is, if we follow false guidance, that's where the separation begins. And it's also where the separation ends, is the realization of what are we? How were we created? What is our eternal nature? And another question to consider would be this concept: once you realize what you truly are, then it is no longer meaningful to judge yourself. Your holy nature needs no judgment, and that results in looking with charity upon yourself, looking gently, as the Holy Spirit does, upon yourself without judgment, without condemnation. And when that happens, it's easy to withdraw judgment from others because you're not practicing it on yourself. So these are some of the themes that will appear in the section that we're reading today. Welcome to Miracles. I did want to say, welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader today is David. I did want to say the term adjustment, as it's used here in Miracles, refers really to a maladjustment. For instance, if you become injured and confined to a wheelchair, you have to adjust your life to this new condition, which is not your state you're used to. So you have to adapt or adjust to it. And in this section, adjustment will refer to the process of adjusting ourselves to the ego. So, and in this image, the individual is standing on a foundation of the ego. This would be an adjustment to the ego, for the ego is not a reliable foundation. Nevertheless, in ignorance and without knowing, we wind up adjusting ourselves to the ego. So with that, we'll enter into our reading.
The belief in sin is an adjustment. And an adjustment is a change, a shift in perception, or a belief that what was so before has been made different. Every adjustment is therefore a distortion and calls upon defenses to uphold it against reality. Knowledge requires no adjustments and, in fact, is lost if any shift or change is undertaken. For this reduces it at once to mere perception, a way of looking in which certainty is lost and doubt has entered. To this impaired condition are adjustments necessary, because it is not true. Who need adjust to truth, which calls on only what he is to understand?
Mm-hmm. So the premise here is, I am as God created me. I am his son eternally. And that would be, as it refers to, knowledge requires no adjustments, the knowledge of the truth of what we are. But if knowledge is lost, that results in a shift or change. and then we adjust ourselves to that change. Said in other ways, with if we are not standing on a state of knowledge, if we're in a state of perception, we have to perceptions are unstable, and we have to constantly adjust ourselves to that. This is by definition uncertain and insecure. It's like surfing a wave. You really don't know what's going to happen next. And this is a state that the mind finds itself in, not the body, but the mind finds itself in a state of standing on the ego's thought system, never being certain or sure what will happen. It's a form of confusion, and you can imagine that anxieties and fears would arise in a mind that is on such an unstable condition. Which we would call it an impaired condition, does require adjustments. So the key here is to change back to a solid foundation in truth. And so we all know that it's returning to a state of knowledge that is eternally stable. We'll go on. If you just joined us, welcome.
Adjustments of any kind are of the ego, for it is the ego's fixed belief that all relationships depend upon adjustments to make of them what it would have them be. Direct relationships in which there are no interferences are always seen as dangerous. The ego is the self-appointed mediator of all relationships, making whatever adjustments it deems necessary and interposing them between those who would meet to keep them separate and prevent their union. It is this studied interference that makes it difficult for you to recognize your holy relationship for what it is.
So as always, let me recognize the problem first so it can be solved. The problem is in terms of your own relating to others under the ego's guidance, that the ego is a self-appointed mediator of all your relationships. It's the one that wants to direct and control how you relate yourself to others. And that puts it on very shaky ground, makes whatever adjustments it deems necessary. It interferes with your holy relating. For in holy relating, which are direct relationships, there is no interference. And the ego is afraid that you would have holy relationships with others. And so it constantly, so in terms of things you might recognize, it would be having to change how you present yourself each time you relate to someone else, having to adjust how you represent yourself to others. Can you see how superficial that would be? That to nobody are you the same person. To everybody, you're a different person, making adjustments. And all this is done so that you avoid the authentic relating that would cause you to see your brother as holy and you to relate your own holiness to their holiness, and thus reestablish joining and union. So to the ego, this is the essence of this distorted interference is essential. It's called a studied interference that makes it difficult to you for you to recognize holy relationships. For in other words, it's a barrier. And a footnote as an aside, much of psychology in psychotherapy and relationships works on helping people through the conflicts that arise as a result of this superficial relating of one's ego to another ego, for it's unhealthy, and it's certain that people are going to be unhappy in their relationships when they're relating through this self-appointed mediator.
The holy do not interfere with truth. They are not afraid of it, for it is within the truth they recognize their holiness and rejoice at what they see. They look on it directly, without attempting to adjust themselves to it or it to them. And so they see that it was in them, not deciding first where they would have it be. Their looking merely asks a question, and it is what they see that answers them. You make the world and then adjust to it, and it to you. Nor is there any difference between yourself and it in your perception, which made them both.
True, profound truths here. So we're going to shift away from the ego relating for a second to the way a holy messenger, a person who's joined the Holy Spirit in the goal of healing, relates to themselves. They do so without interference. They don't put on airs, and they're not afraid. Matter of fact, they are cognizant of a power within themselves that many of the work, for those of you that are doing the workbook lessons along with the daily calendar, my holiness blesses the world. They're aware that this inner presence is for the good of everyone. And so no adjustment is needed. And nor is a lot of forethought and planning needed. I want to diverge for a moment and confess on myself that in the past, when I was going to meet an important person, I used to rehearse in my mind things I might say in advance of meeting them. And if they asked me a question, how I might respond. I tried to work it all out ahead of time of how I would present myself to the person. This is deciding first in advance of how I'm going to adjust to them. And of course, that was full of much anxiety because you can never know when you're about to meet somebody what's going to transpire between you. Well, the holy see through all that foolishness and don't bother. They just be your true self. When you say be yourself, be your true self, your holy self, without having to decide first. And the way to key your mind to this truth is to ask yourself this question. They're looking merely ask a question. They don't state it here, but they will in a moment. And the truth is, your mind decides what kind of world you want to see. Do you want to see the world through your own inner holiness? Or by forgetting, are you going to project out another sense of yourself, an ego, an adjusted ego sense of yourself? It's up to your own mind to choose its purpose, and in so doing, you make the world.
A simple question yet remains and needs an answer. Do you like what you have made? A world of murder and attack through which you thread your timid way through constant dangers, alone and frightened, hoping at most that death will wait a little longer before it overtakes you and you disappear. You made this up. It is a picture of what you think you are, of how you see yourself. A murderer is frightened, and those who kill fear death. All these are but the fearful thoughts of those who would adjust themselves to a world made fearful by their adjustments. And they look out in sorrow from what is sad within and see the sadness there.
So the course is full of these internal uh, interrogations of self with simple questions, really just fundamental. Do you like the way you see the world? Do you like what you have made of the world to be? For, remember, perception is not a fact, it's a choice. Are you happy with the choices you have made of how you see the world? It's such a basic question. I think a lot of times in our complex world, we're too busy to even look at these basic fundamental questions. For the world is a picture of what you think you are, of your beliefs about yourself, and of how you see yourself. And that can be, I'm blessed as a holy son of God, and I see myself as here to offer blessings to the world. Or it can reflect instead, if we forget that, the descriptions that are the dark, murderous, frightening descriptions that are shown here. It is a choice. And what this section is saying is if you don't know the truth of what you are, then your mind will default to this ego assessment and you will adjust to it to think it's normal. And we would assert that the vast majority of the world has adjusted to this ego perception of the world and believes that that's the way things really are, that believes it to be true. Again, the world is a picture of what you think, of what your beliefs about yourself are, and therefore of how you see yourself. So, this is more important than you think. This is the fundamental error that the Course is looking to correct: how you see yourself and what you believe about yourself. For although relationships are the arena in which we work all that out, you cannot heal until you truly believe of yourself that you are guiltless, innocent, lovable, and worthy of love. That's essential for one to see the world through the eyes of holiness.
Have you not wondered what the world is really like? How it would look through happy eyes? The world you see is but a judgment on yourself. It is not there at all. Yet judgment lays a sentence on it, justifies it, and makes it real. Such is the world you see, a judgment on yourself and made by you. This sickly picture of yourself is carefully preserved by the ego, whose image it is and which it loves, and placed outside you in the world. And to this world must you adjust as long as you believe this picture is outside and has you at its mercy. This world is merciless, and were it outside you, you should indeed be fearful. Yet it was you who made it merciless. And now, if mercilessness seems to look back at you, it can be corrected.
So we can interpret what was just said here in psychological terms. This sickly picture of yourself, preserved by the ego, is an image, a self image. It's not necessarily registered on the visual plane of your mind, but it's represented by the way your attitude toward yourself with regards to your lovability and your worthiness and your innocence. It's your emotional stance and position towards your own self. And again, the vast majority of psychotherapy works in this area. Because why? Because people have a sickly picture of themselves. And because they then project that picture out onto the world and believe that the world is condemning them back, and they're all wrapped up in this. Did we not read just a few paragraphs ago? The ego has a studied interference plan here, of which it anchors the vast majority of people's self-concepts are anchored inside this matrix of guilt and sin and unworthiness and fear and anxiety. And I might add, and then we go out and try to interact with people thinking of ourselves in those terms. So clearly this needs to be corrected, and it's making reference to it here, that this image that we think is condemning us, it can be corrected. All of this is just an error in the mind's belief system. It can be corrected, for we all have the power to change our own mind. And you can choose again. In every situation, there are two voices that call to you. Yes, the ego voice will call to you, but the Holy Spirit is always there quietly whispering, there is another way, for this way that you initially thought of need not be. How long can we remain?
Who in a holy relationship can long remain unholy? The world the holy see is one with them, just as the world the ego looks upon is like itself. The world the holy see is beautiful because they see their innocence in it. They did not tell it what it was. They did not make adjustments to fit their orders. They gently questioned it and whispered, "What are you?" And he who watches over all perception answered, Take not the judgment of the world as answer to the question, what am I? The world believes in sin, but the belief that made it as you see it is not outside you.
So my holiness envelops the world. My holiness blesses everything I see. It is true that the world the holy see is one with them. So the same principles of mind that operate when we're standing on the belief of the ego, those same mind principles are universal, and they operate when we're standing on the belief in the Holy Spirit's blessing. So you stand on that foundation and you see yourself as a part of God's plan of salvation, and you see the world as the environment in which all that is expressed, and that you have a purpose here to extend that awareness of holiness outward. It's the same principles of mind. And so the question, the gentle question that you ought to ask yourself is, what are you? What are you? For, again, as we said, this is the mistaken answer to this question reinforces the separation. The corrected answer undoes the foundation of the ego and restores our mind to true perception. And so I will submit to you that of all the work you can do in A Course in Miracles, and let's assume for a moment a student who is really trying for a year or more, has done all the workbook lessons, has read the course, and is keeping at it and giving it a sincere best effort. It will still come back ultimately. There may be many veils along the way, but ultimately, the one that must be addressed is foundational, is how do you view yourself? And you don't need to come up with a clever answer on your own, for the Holy Spirit has already answered it. You are as God created you. You are blessed eternally. Just a side thing, in the realms of philosophy, I thought that we all had to figure this out on our own, come up with our own answers. Who am I going to be in this world? What's my place in the world? Meaning everybody would have their own separate and individual answers. This is so simple. It's the same question asked by everybody, and everyone ultimately arrives at the same answer as well. I am as God created me. I am his son eternally.
Seek not to make the Son of God adjust to his insanity. There is a stranger in him who wandered carelessly into the home of truth and who will wander off. He came without a purpose, but he will not remain before the shining light the Holy Spirit offered and you accepted. For there the stranger is made homeless and you are welcome. Ask not this transient stranger, what am I? He is the only thing in all the universe that does not know. Yet it is he you ask, and it is to his answer that you would adjust. This one wild thought, fierce in its arrogance, and yet so tiny and so meaningless, it slips unnoticed through the universe of truth, becomes your guide. To it, you turn to ask the meaning of the universe. And of the one blind thing in all the seeing universe of truth, you ask, how shall I look upon the Son of God?
Mhm. So I love the symbolisms here. So, speaking about your inner world as the home of truth, that a stranger has entered in to your home of truth. And this stranger, we then ask mistakenly the question, what am I? To the stranger, meaning we turn to the ego or to our perception of the world. Maybe it's our family of origin views, maybe it's the educational system or the religious framework, but we turn to those sources to answer this question, what am I? And this is, as it says, this stranger is going to mislead you, for it does not know the truth, and will. And the first, so if that was not bad enough to ask the stranger, "What am I?" We also then make the further mistake is once we receive the answer, we stop asking the question, and we spend years and years running on the answer the ego has given us. So we stop questioning. And that's why in A Course in Miracles, it begins again with asking questions, simple questions that we had stopped asking of ourselves. Um, and so so this question really can be rephrased using other words here. How, given what my understanding is of the Son of God, the idea of a union between God and his children, his creation, how should I perceive? What meaning should I give to this idea of God's children, God's Son? How do I look upon this?
Does one ask judgment of what is totally bereft of judgment? And if you have, would you believe the answer and adjust to it as if it were the truth? The world you look on is the answer that it gave you, and you have given it power to adjust the world to make its answer true. You ask this puff of madness for the meaning of your unholy relationship and adjusted it according to its insane answer. How happy did it make you? Did you meet your brother with joy to bless the Son of God and give him thanks for all the happiness that he held out to you? Did you recognize your brother as the eternal gift of God to you? Did you see the holiness that shone in both you and your brother to bless the other? That is the purpose of your holy relationship. Ask not the means of its attainment, of the one thing that still would have it be unholy. Give it no power to adjust the means and end.
Mhm. So they make a couple reference to what you give your power to. And I think this is one of the great misunderstood or even ignored issues of life is you have the power of your mind, the power of your faith, and what do you do with it? It's not often discussed outside of perhaps religious circles, and even then it's cast within some doctrinal framework. The truth is that everyone, every day, is giving their power away to either the ego or sharing it with the Holy Spirit, regardless of what background they have. The power of your mind is working constantly. And if you give, as I refer to it here, the world that you look on results from your having given the ego power to adjust the world to make its answers true. For in other words, we bought in to the guidance of the ego, and then we continued to give it our mental power, our faith and belief, so that, yes, indeed, we do wind up seeing the world through the eyes of the ego. But again, that same principle can be used with the Holy Spirit. By believing the Holy Spirit's guidance, you are as God created you. You give your power to it, and you wind up seeing the world through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, which is to say, the real world, the world of the new perception. And then you do see the holiness that shines in both of you and your brother blesses the other. This is the essence of those workbook lessons in the late, from 33 onward, 39. My holiness blesses the world. It's based upon employing the Holy Spirit's thought system as your foundation and using that as the basis for, and when we say the world, we mean your understanding of what life here is. It's not so much about Earth and planets, it's the way you show up in this life is your world. It's the representation that you have in your own mind of life itself. And as we know, the Holy Spirit gives us a sense of purpose for that world. That's the purpose of your holy relationship, to show up in recognition of your own holiness and the recognition of the holiness of others, and to have holy encounters with others that brings about healing. But if we don't, we become prisoners.
Prisoners bound with heavy chains for years, starved and emaciated, weak and exhausted, with eyes so long cast down in darkness they remember not the light, do not leap up in joy the instant they are made free. It takes a while for them to understand what freedom is. You groped but feebly in the dust and found your brother's hand, uncertain whether to let it go or to take hold on life so long forgotten. Strengthen your hold and raise your eyes unto your strong companion, in whom the meaning of your freedom lies. He seemed to be crucified beside you, and yet his holiness remained untouched and perfect. And with him beside you, you shall this day enter with him to paradise and know the peace of God.
So I'm going to offer an interpretation of this, and that is that you who are listening to this, who are really sincerely applying the course to your own life, are made free from the ancient prison of the ego. And it says it takes a while to understand what freedom is. It takes a while. So, what we are advised to do is to strengthen our hold on this freedom. And by how? By raising our eyes unto your strong companion, in whom the meaning of your freedom lies. Companion in the past was, in other locations, was in reference to the Holy Spirit. Here it could be could be your brother. It's hard to know oftentimes who those references are towards. He seemed to be crucified, and yet his holiness remained untouched and perfect. So let's just say generically, this refers to the crucified Son of God, whomever you might have seen in that light. Um, and so it takes a while to recognize what freedom is. So it is necessary that you strengthen your hold and raise your eyes upon the Son of God, in whom the meaning of your freedom lies. Again, what are you? You need to lay strong hold of that truth to strengthen yourself, because this newfound freedom is something that you have to grow into.
Such is my will for you and your brother, and for each of you for one another and for himself. Here there is only holiness and joining without limit. For what is heaven but union, direct and perfect, and without the veil of fear upon it? Here are we one, looking with perfect gentleness upon each other and on ourselves. Here all thoughts of any separation between us become impossible. You who were prisoners in separation are now made free in paradise. And here would I unite with you, my friend, my brother, and myself.
I don't have any comments. Would anybody care to comment? But I will point out that heaven is not a piece of real estate in space somewhere. It is a state of awakening, a state of union without any interference. Direct in this sense means no intermediaries, no barriers of interference. It's a perfect state, again, without any veils upon it, a state of oneness where we share with each other and with ourselves. No thoughts of separation arise in that state. So this would be, and in other places, we'll read about heaven on earth, the heavenly state experienced while you're on earth. In many ways, a holy instant is just that. It's an instant of a glimpse into a more perfect union. Heather?
Yeah, when you were talking, Jonathan, I just had a insight. I don't know where this, but what came to me is that question that you asked. You said it will, maybe it's the Holy Spirit, maybe it's something else. What came to me was that that's the Christ. And the Holy Spirit bridges us to the Christ. The relationship goes from Holy Spirit to Christ. And this last sentence, and here would I unite with you, my friend, my brother, and myself.
Mm-hmm.
Myself is the Christ.
Yes.
So he bridges us, because the Christ can be such a loaded image. I think he takes us from the Holy Spirit, which is more benign and neutral.
Yes.
And coming to the end of this, he says, now what about your relationship with me, the Christ itself? So that just really hit me. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I'm so glad you shared that. I hope you all heard that. Well said. And that's often the style of the course is the answers in the next paragraph.
Your gift unto your brother has given me the certainty our union will be soon. Share then this faith with me and know that it is justified. There is no fear in perfect love because it knows no sin, and it must look on others as on itself. Looking with charity within, what can it fear without?
Mm-hmm.
The innocent see safety, and the pure in heart see God within his Son, and look unto the Son to lead them to the Father. And where else would they go but where they will to be? You and your brother now will lead the other to the Father as surely as God created his Son holy and kept him so. In your brother is the light of God's eternal promise of your immortality. See him as sinless, and there can be no fear in you.
Wow. I'm particularly fond of this statement that in this higher estate, it looks on others as it looks on itself, and specifically looking on yourself with charity. And I might remind you, I didn't footnote it here, but I might remind you that charity in the Course of Miracles is to see in someone a perfection that they haven't yet manifest in their life in time and space, but to believe in that holiness before they even express it themselves, is to be charitable, to overcome in your own perception the illusions of time and recognize that which is forever true is true right now, even if the manifestation is not consistent with that truth. And so it's to say that the illusions do not matter, only the truth matters. And so to look within upon yourself with charity is the expression that you recognize what you are. This question, what am I? Is the answer's already been given. I am as God created me. I'm his son eternally. And the practice then is you no longer condemn yourself. You no longer judge yourself. As you look within, it's charitable. I may not be walking a heavenly life every day, but I believe that the truth is true and that the illusions are transient and are shadows that will disappear. Therefore, I look within with charity. And when we do that, we reflect charity outward as well, such that there is no fear. There can be seeing, we then wind up seeing others in that same regard and seeing them as sons of light. There can be no fear in you because your mind is no longer anchored on a thought system that's based on fault finding, condemning, and judgment. Instead, it's anchored on a set of blessed truth principles about your own holiness, about your purpose here, about your inner guidance. And so there can be no fear in you because your mind does not give power away to that thought system, which would generate all those fearful concepts to begin with. So this is really about changing your source to that which is, we might mention, that source is a placeholder for your eternal source. The Holy Spirit is not your eternal source, but she is the intermediate that we go to on our way to the eternal source. David, you had your hand up.
Yes. First of all, I'm going to read. These are notes that I took on previous times when we'd done this particular chapter. I wrote two things down. It talks about adjustment, how the ego makes adjustments. So I said, illusion is the product of adjustment.
Yes.
Salvation is the product of correction.
Yes.
And you referenced I've been doing the lessons too, and several times through the lessons now. And each time I go through the lessons, they hit a different level of depth.
Yes.
And these lessons about, oh my goodness, God is in everything I see. I have invented the world I see. This is what this chapter is talking about. It tells me that all my adjustments are the world I have invented, the world that I see. And I could see peace instead of this, Then it goes into my holiness, and God is in me and God is in my mind. My holiness blesses the world, and I am blessed as a son of God. And all these, it's a transition that has to occur inside me before I can emanate anything. And I have to let go that ego, and it's very difficult to do. The undoing is not an easy thing to complete. It's miraculous. It happens holy instance. It happens a lot more now when I can see my brother as myself. When I know that what I'm seeing that's disturbing me, I have created. This is my illusion. And what a freedom to know that at any moment I can be free of all of it. I just have to let go and let God and let the Holy Spirit, which is not easy for me. I'm not just here saying, oh, this is an easy thing and I've gotten to this level, blah, blah, blah. No. I get glimpses. And when I get a glimpse, it's an aha moment. And then I say, yes, I have to turn the ship. It's like a big ocean liner, the ego. I have to turn it a little bit more, and each turn, that's why, my ego tells me, well, I don't need to be reading this again and again and again. It's great. I just urge everybody to do the lessons and keep working at it, keep letting go, because that's what we need to do. That's the adjustment I need to do, is the letting go adjustment, so that I don't have to make any more adjustments. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you for sharing that. So I don't want to crosstalk, but David made a couple comments about it not being easy. I just wanted to link that back to this issue of how we use our power. For it tends to be a matter that people are unaware of. For instance, we didn't know for the first decades of our life that we were giving our power away to an ego thought system. We were unaware that we were anchored in a false self-image, a false self-concept. And raising this to our awareness, we realize it's not only a letting go of the ego, the undoing of it, which is a significant, as David said, a significant accomplishment in itself. It's also a relocating of that power that is now formally given to the ego, relocating that power now into the guidance of the Holy Spirit that has all kinds of possibilities that were previously unimaginable, that we could see peace instead of this, that we could recognize holiness in our brother. All kinds of possibilities are made available if we train our minds to direct our power consistently in the direction of the Holy Spirit. And the one question that I find is most useful for that before engaging in any activity is to ask, what for? What is this for? What is this about? The example that we often have is maybe you're meeting somebody socially, and you think that you might be going there to get a meal, to feed your hunger, and to catch up socially. But within that encounter, the Holy Spirit has a broader purpose that has to do with how you use your power and how you use the recognition of your holiness. And so if we open our minds to asking those simple questions, what is this for? What is this really about? It doesn't promise that you immediately get clarity, but it does mean that your mind is open to seeking for that higher purpose, and that intention will be enough. That's all that the Holy Spirit needs, is that you intend to work with her in any encounter so that she can be influential to you in those moments of encounter. So that's as far as we're going to go in today's reading. That is very powerful. Remember, you make the world you see. It's a choice that we make every day. Everyone is making that choice every day in accordance with how they're using the power of their mind. So I trust that you'll find this will be a good weekend for practicing these lessons in your affairs. Thank you all. Thank you, David, for reading. Namaste.
Thank you, David.
Namaste, everybody.
Thank you, David.
Namaste, everyone. Thank you, David.
Okay.
My pleasure.
I like
It's a good